Welcome back to Steve's Project Car Garage. My name is Steve. Sitting behind me here is my 1969 Triumph Spitfire tanker. In the last video I went ahead and I started cutting out some of this A-pillar so I can go ahead and get rid of some of that rot. And in tonight's video I'm going to go ahead and get started with trying to fill that hole in. So grab yourself a cup of jitter juice and we'll get started. Alright, so tonight's work is actually going to start inside. What I'm going to do is get my flap disc and I'm just going to try to clean up some of this metal and go ahead and remove the burr that I've got here on the edge from cutting it out. And then that way I can go ahead and get a mic on this and I can really kind of figure out what the thickness of this metal is. My guess is that this is going to be that 19 gauge stuff that the car originally came with. And I'll have to take a look at my metal pile and see what I've got. And no, I do have some 19 gauge. Specifically 19 gauge, I may just go ahead and use that for this because that's probably going to be the best spot for it. But I also may go with some 18. I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's where we're going to get started. All right, now that I have the burrs removed, a nice clean edge, let's see what size we got here. I'm gonna guess that this is probably gonna be that 19 gauge. And when I put this on here, 19 feels about right. Although 20, 21. So it actually maybe this 20 gauge is probably gonna be what I go with, because if I try to put 18 on here, it's gonna be a ton of play. So I think 20 will probably be our winner, which makes sense because I've ground off a little bit of the metal and it has definitely thinned it out just a little bit. I tried to not get much. I used the wire wheel, which is definitely a lot less aggressive than say like a flap disc, but yeah, I think 20 is probably gonna be our winner. Well, let's go find some metal. All right, what I have here is a piece of metal that's 1.5 inches thick, 13 3/8 inches long. I went ahead and I scored a mark on it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bend it over so that way I have a nice flange. I'm gonna go with a 1/2 inch flange, and yeah, so let's get this knocked out. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. This is where having a brake would come in really handy right now, but I don't have one, so I work with what I got. All right, so now that I got that shaped, I went ahead and I threw a little bit of primer in a couple of spots that may be a little harder to get to later. But like right here on the edge, I also went ahead and I drilled a plug weld hole. And we're gonna just go ahead and show you guys how this fits in. It fits in pretty well. I don't know how I managed to miss my plug weld hole like that. Whoops. But, I'll still have a decent bit of penetration there, so it should be okay. But here we go. I mean, that's how it's gonna fit. So let's slap that magnet on there. Maybe another one right about there somewhere. And we should be pretty much ready to weld this guy in. There's going to be a couple of little spots I'm noticing that might be a little higher or a little bit lower. We will adjust those as we go. I think we're just about ready. Let's get the welder out. Alright, so I got this welded in. What I need to do now is try to get it cleaned up a little bit. There's a couple of low spots right here I may need to come back in and put a little bit more weld into. But for the most part, this is pretty decent. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but my welding is definitely getting better. So let's go ahead and see if we can try to just clean this up a little bit and dress up the metal. So I got some low spots here I gotta hit with the welder again. Made a little hole there, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. All right, so I went ahead and put some more weld in here, and then hit it with the flap disc again, and not terrible. I'm gonna, of course, skim coat this, and it'll, have some body filler over it to kind of hide the seam a little bit more, but for the most part I'm pretty happy with it. this is my first real foray into anything that's going to be visible. So it's not terrible. I mean, I've done worse. Anyways, though, I think that's going to be where we're going to wrap it up for the night. I'm pretty happy with this. It's definitely coming along. So let's go ahead and get cleaned up and then we'll wrap up. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I'm pretty happy with the overall progress. If we take a look here, I threw some paint on it and it's not terrible. You get really close, you'll see that there's definitely some ripples here. And this is just from the weld line, so I could probably sand that down a little bit more to get it kind of more like it is here. But I will worry about that a little bit later. Oh, hey, look at that, the paint's still wet. So if you haven't done so already, I do ask you please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click the bell so that way you get the notifications saying that I've posted new content. And I hope to be seeing you in a video pretty soon. Hope y'all have a great night. Cheers.